How do you know whether you're in a high conflict custody situation? Well, one of the signs that you're in a high conflict custody scenario is it's not just that you and your spouse don't agree on everything. That's very normal. When two people are exiting their romantic relationship and moving on to a new relationship as co-parents, they don't always have all the same views about parenting. They might not agree what time kids should go to bed. They might have different opinions on what activities the children should do or how often they should do activities. They might even disagree about what town school system is best for their kids. There is a lot of room between not agreeing on everything and having a full-on high conflict custody case. One of the hallmarks of a full-on high conflict custody case is that you can't reach an agreement, right? Not that you disagree, but that you can't come up with a compromise that both of you can live with, because you know that while it might not be your favorite idea, it's still good for your children. When you start to get the sense that there isn't a lot of room for you and your spouse to reach an agreement when you're in a high conflict custody situation, there are a few things that we work with our clients on to try and see if we can come to a resolution or at least streamline helping the court to decide in the event that you can. You've probably heard of a few of these things. One of them is using a guardian ad litem. So that's often shortened to a GAL because it's Latin and it's just a lot of words. So what the GAL does is the GAL does an investigation. They might talk to both of you, each of the parents. They might talk to the children. They might talk to other folks that know the children, like their teachers or mental health professionals that they work with, to try and come up with a recommendation to the court about what's in a child's best interest. One of the reasons that this is helpful is that this is a neutral person who's taking a look at the situation. And one of the things the GAL does before they share this with the court is they'll actually tell you what they're thinking. And that can help spur on settlement discussions as well, because if the two of you have a sense of what a court might think, because the GAL gives you that insight, it can help open up some room where you and your spouse might find some compromises. If you and your ex aren't agreeing on how parenting should work with your children, you're probably going to get concerned about how that acrimony, how that disagreement might impact your kids, and what tips and tools other people have used in the past to try and reduce the toll that the parental disagreement takes on the children. First of all, by putting your kids first, by virtue of asking this question and wanting to know how you can support your children, you're on the right track. So kudos to you. The best thing I would tell you is if you can avoid fighting, avoid fighting. The best way to support kids is to avoid the conflict altogether. If something's going on that's so extreme that you must engage in a dispute over it because it's simply not safe not to have a dispute about it, here are some tips. One, I would make sure that you have very experienced mental health professionals who understand children's growth, maturation, who are familiar with custody issues and how the court process can impact children. Having those folks on board can really support your kids. But as for what you do for your children when you're interacting them, even if you don't like how your spouse is acting with the children, you have to remember that you're in charge of your relationship with the children. They are kids. Even if they're 18, they are kids. Parents' disputes aren't kids' disputes. You don't speak ill of your ex. You don't suggest kind of silently with a wink and a nod that their other parent is doing something wrong. You play your own game and you support them because those two kids deserve to have two loving parents and neither parent should be undermining the other. There can be a few differences in how working through parenting and custody issues works in mediation versus in a litigated divorce. In both cases, what you want to do is be making decisions in the child's best interest. That needs to be the focal point of custody, regardless of how you're going through your divorce, if you're mediating it or if you're in a more traditional divorce litigation. The guiding star should be the best interest of the children. That doesn't mean that you and your co-parent are going to agree on everything. Reasonable minds can differ. There can be different parenting styles. Part of making sure that you're following what's in the children's best interest is figuring out a way to have a copacetic co-parenting relationship with your co-parent, even though your romantic relationship has concluded. If you're in a more traditional litigation, one of the things that you might see in your custody process is something called a GAL might get involved. A guardian ad litem might be brought into the case to help evaluate what's in the child's best interest. There are also other services that are provided through the Connecticut Judicial Branch where you can do an evaluation to get some sense of what the court should maybe recommend with respect to parenting if the two of you can't agree. Of course, if you're in a mediation, you're probably going to make these decisions just with your spouse, with the mediator's assistance in having those conversations. I've done some mediations where we've brought in a mental health professional to help parents who are having a difficult time on how parenting and custody should work. That person's background and experience in how children grow and develop from a mental health perspective can really aid parents who are both committed to making decisions that will work for themselves and for their children. If you're interested in learning more about how we help people come up with solutions when they can't agree on parenting and other custody issues, please give us a call.